Hey Geek, so at the time of this video, I just purchased the Panasonic Lumix S5 2X full frame camera, and this one finally gave all of us Panasonic users something that we've been wanting and hoping for such a long time, and that is reliable video autofocus. And so this is something that I have definitely been waiting for ever since I got the Panasonic Lumix G85 Micro Four Thirds camera, which is what I'm using now. And since Panasonic just refused to release that system, just sticking with their DFD autofocus system, I decided to move over to Sony. And so I did have the Sony A7 IV full frame camera, and it is an amazing camera, especially when it comes to reliable video autofocus. But after using it for about 2 years, I kind of realized that there were things that I really missed about Panasonic. First of which is the stabilization. Even though the stabilization is really good with the Sony A7 IV, it was definitely not at Panasonic levels, and I missed that a lot, especially considering I am outside a lot doing vlogs. And then other things that I enjoyed about the Panasonic cameras are more video features. Even though the Sony A7 IV offers a lot, Panasonic is known for their video features, and that is the one place that they keep delivering. And then the other thing, which is more subjective, is the overall look of the Panasonic videos and images right out of the camera. And I really do like the way that looks. And I know you could actually fix this in post and make it look however you want, but straight out of camera, I do like the Panasonic's more cinematic, film-like look versus the more digital look of the Sony cameras and the Sony A7 IV specifically. And then another thing is just overall value. For what you're paying in the Panasonic system, I think you're going to get more out of your money versus the Sony ecosystem. So those were some of the things that I really missed about the whole Panasonic ecosystem. And I was waiting for Panasonic to finally introduce really great, reliable video autofocus, and they finally delivered with the Panasonic S5 II, the S5 IIX, the G9 II, and now this brand new camera that's just been announced. And well, I'm starting to think, did I make a mistake? And so the camera I'm talking about here is the brand new Panasonic Lumix S9 full frame mirrorless camera. And this is a camera that I was hoping would be released because what I really wanted to do was have a more compact version of this camera, because I thought about getting the G9 II, but I kind of wanted to get away from Micro Four Thirds and just stick to full frame if possible. And well, this is the camera that hopefully will answer those needs. So this one is really compact. It's meant to offer a lot of the great features of their full frame line while also giving you in a much more miniature form, because if you are outside doing a lot of vlogs, or you're traveling, or you're just somebody who likes to be shooting in a lot of different places, then carrying around a full frame camera, regardless of the system, is not ideal, especially when it comes to the lenses. And this is something that it's really difficult to explain unless you are doing these type of videos with a full frame camera. And with the Lumix S9, it seems to fix a lot of those things. The first is the body. That is the main thing. It is much smaller, lighter. And even though it still is the full frame sensor with the L mount system, you still could definitely have much larger lenses, but they are going to produce lenses for this that are smaller and more compact. So with all of those things, I kind of thought that, yeah, this is the portable camera that I've been waiting for. And hopefully they will give you a lot of the same big features that their S5 II, S5 IIX offers, things such as like their open gate full frame sensor mode, their great stabilization, and of course the amazing video autofocus. And there are things that this definitely going to provide that the S5 II, S5 IIX currently don't have, such as this whole extended zoom range crop hybrid system. And they talk about the autofocus here, amazing stabilization, steady shot, and there is the more compact lens. So some of the things they're going to offer is a 26mm f8, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then also a 18-40 f4 to 5.6. And I think this is the one that I think a lot of creators like myself are going to be choosing versus this one right here. And then other features that it offers is pretty much going to be very similar to what we already have with the S5 II, S5 IIX. It will have the same 24.2 full frame CMOS sensor. It is going to be using the same hybrid phase detection autofocus. stabilization, which is amazing. It's also going to have a flippy screen, which is going to be great, and I think a must if you're going to be providing this for content creators. And then it's going to offer other things, such as that zoom that I was talking about, but also a new MP4-like mode whenever you are using OpenGate, because 6K OpenGate with this camera requires a lot from your computer to process. And also the biggest thing that they're focusing on is their whole LUTs. This is going to be primarily for casual creators. Okay, so if you're not familiar with LUTs, they're basically acronym for lookup table, so it allows you to change the way it looks straight in camera. So that's going to be really nice for people who want to have a different look but also have the flexibility to change it as they wish and also modify it as well. And then we come to the actual price itself, which is going to be a big factor. So the pricing for this starts at $1,500 for the body alone, but I think for most people they're going to get it with some type of lens. And in this case, you can get the 20-60 kit lens for $1,800. And then if you actually wanted the smaller one, the pancake one, the 26mm f8, that's going to be about $200. Now the thing about this is that the aperture at f8 is not going to be the best. Okay, if you're not familiar with this whole f-stop aperture thing, basically the higher the number, the less light it lets in, and the less blurrier background, the less bokeh you're going to get. And so if you have a smaller f-stop number like a 2.8 or even a 4, you are going to get more light in, and also you're going to be able to get a much blurrier background versus the same distance if you were shooting with a lens such as this 26mm f8. Okay, and I don't think this is going to be the best lens for most people, and at the same time, as I understand, this is a manual mode only, which is a no-go for people like myself. Now, the 20-60, as far as I know, this is the same lens that we have here. And so this is going to be pretty big in my opinion. And so that's why I'm waiting for the 14-60. I think that's going to be a much better option for a lot of people. I'm sorry, 18-40, because of the fact that it is a lot smaller. And I really feel if this is successful, we'll get more lenses specifically for this line. And if they are using the same mount, which they are, the L mount, then you could definitely get these lenses for these other cameras like the S5, S5 2X. So it's a win-win for everybody. And in terms of pricing, this is where, well, I'm not going to be 100% on this, because even though this is really great aggressive pricing, this camera does lack things that the full frame S5 II and S5 2X offers, and at the same time you don't have to pay much more to get these other cameras. The first thing that I've noticed is it does not have a viewfinder, and I know for some people, especially beginning content creators, they might not think that this is a big deal, but I think, having this option is nice to have, especially if you are outdoors and there's sunlight or something. Just looking at everything through this LCD screen, it's going to be really hard to see. And so, we have seen other cameras at this price range or lower offer viewfinder and a LCD screen. So I wish they would have offered that. And then another thing that this S9 doesn't offer is some type of a headphone jack to monitor your audio. I think that's really, really important, especially if you are out and about and then later you find out in post that the audio was absolutely horrible. And having that option, I think, would have been really, really nice to have. And then some other things, and I know I might be asking for too much after this, are things like weather sealing. If you're having a compact camera, then I think at this price range, it would be nice for them to add that weather sealing. Even if it's not as good as something like this, it would be really valuable for it to have that, especially considering people are going to be carrying this camera around in a lot of places. And then another thing that is lacking, and I don't think it's a big thing for me, but for people who do a lot of photography, this does not have a mechanical shutter. It only has a e-shutter, okay, a digital shutter. And so in that case, it's not going to be as good as a mechanical shutter. And then the other things that I can think of with this right now is the fact that this overheats quickly. Okay, as far as I know, if I remember correctly, looking at some videos, you'll probably get about 10 minutes of footage if you are using the full sensor open gate mode. And then if you're doing 4K, you're going to get about 15 minutes. I think it's 4K 30. And that is something that is going to be a big bummer, you know. So obviously you could shoot it in 1080p, but for them to be able to have that type of limits, and I understand because of the size, you're not going to be able to get the same cooling. But I think that will be a limiting factor for a lot of content creators, especially considering that there are other cameras from Sony, Fuji, in the same price range, and that could actually offer that. And more importantly, Panasonic's own range of cameras. So if you decide like you want to get this, you're going to spend about $1,800 to $2,000 after tax. And at that point, you know, you're probably in the whole range of why not just get the S5 II or even S5 IIX, you know, at that point. And so that is the big dilemma for me, because at this price, I don't know if it's going to be worth it for me, especially considering some of the big compromises, at least for me, you know, coming from something like this that I'll be making. And if there was a larger price gap, like maybe $500 or more, then yeah, I could see that, okay, maybe it might be worth just getting this versus getting the S5 II, S5 IIX. And, you know, like I said, if you do look at other manufacturers like Sony, Fuji, and I know Sony typically costs more, but in this case, it's not going to make it an easy decision. Even though this is a camera that I would most likely want to get, I probably might not get this at the full price. I'll probably wait for a sale because this does offer a lot of things that I would want, but having some of those missing features and limitations is something that I definitely have to consider. So those are my thoughts on the new Panasonic Lumix S9. I really feel that this is going to be a really great option for a lot of beginning creators out there. But for people like myself who really do love the Panasonic camera and have something like the S5 II, or in this case, the S5 IIX, this looks like something that we could definitely get, but it makes it a harder decision because of all those things that I mentioned. So if you actually had any thoughts on this, be sure to leave in the comments area below. And if you did want to see more of my camera tutorials, tips, tricks, and reviews, I do have an entire playlist. I'll leave that in the description area below. Hey geeks, if you are a brand new creator and you simply want something easy to get you started, well, I got something for you with my Creator Starter Kit. This is a super simple step-by-step guide that's going to take you from having no channel to developing your very first YouTube channel, along with ideas, thumbnail designs, and other creator tips, including marketing. And the best part is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and get started creating.